The 2022 Virtual Business Conference, February 24th. Alan Cutler, Roles of Management.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the next session in the USPTA Southern Business webinar. My name is Matt Bacon. I am a USPTA Florida Board Vice President. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm also the Director of Development and Programming at 904 Tennis. I'm very proud to introduce Alan Cutler, who is a USPTA and RPT Master Pro. He has been an industry award-winning USPTA professional. He was also the California Pro of the Year. He is also a semi-retired senior consultant for Apollo Global Management. And here's Alan speaking about the roles of management. Alan, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. It's great to be with all of you, and I look forward to this 45 minutes of time. We're going to talk about the roles of management so that everybody has a clear understanding of what's expected at different levels of management. Again, I'm Alan Cutler. I'm a member just like everybody else. We're going to talk about adapting to use the different roles as a critical skill of management. So by understanding your different roles and what's expected at different levels of management, your ability to do the job is much more effective. Also, to move up through the system becomes a lot easier. So this is going to be a statement you hear a lot from me for the next 45 minutes. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And what I mean by this is that as you move through the system here, your role will change and the way you need to look at things change. So if you think about management as looking at a forest, if you supervise 3 people, you see 3 trees in the forest. If you're a inline supervisor, you might see 20 trees. If you're a middle manager, you might see 100 trees. And if you're the GM or the owner, you might see a mile of trees. We need to change the way you're looking at things so that you can clearly see what your role is. I'm going to give everybody a definition here so we're all on common ground. The difference between supervision and management is who signs an employee's review and who can initiate disciplinary action. And in the days of mom and pop shops, it was probably the director of tennis who did this, but a lot of corporates have taken over these country clubs, and the reality is there's a lot more layers of management and protection for the company. I'm also going to give you a definition of review versus professional development plan. If you're doing a review, it's because someone's not doing their job. If someone's doing their job, I'd much rather call that a professional development plan. So I've done an organization chart for you. I've customized this based on the geography of where most of you live in the country. This will be for a country club. They probably employ about 50% of the pros on this call. We're going to start at the bottom. So at the bottom, we have a teaching pro. They probably don't supervise anyone. They're independent. They go in, they teach your lesson, they fill out their timesheet, and they're gone. There's likely to be a head pro above that person who might indirectly supervise 2 or 3 teaching pros. And that person is unlikely to do much other than direct the daily activities and do programming. You're going to have a director of tennis. And that director of tennis is going to be responsible for some other things. But this is a basic organization chart where I'm going to say the next person up, we at my club or the club I used to own, I called that person leisure activity. They were over tennis and pickleball, the gym and aquatics. That person probably supervised approximately 20 people. Along with those middle managers, I'm going to call the director of tennis, the director of pickleball, those people, lower management. I'm going to call the director of HR, IT, finance, leisure activity, and finance, middle managers. I'm going to call the CEO, senior management, and we all have owners at the end of the day. So a head pro takes care of operational issues. They make sure employees are on time. provide services to the customer. They act as a primary contact with customer. They're the first line of contact. They might have input to an employee's review and may be to elevate issues. And again, if you're doing reviews, it's because someone's not doing their job. Otherwise, there should be a professional development plan. This person probably does not sign reviews or initiate disciplinary actions. In this world that we live in now, when an employee disciplines another employee and they don't follow the law, that's a good case for a lawsuit. And we don't want these people doing it because they're not trained to deal with the legal issues in line. Okay, so that's a tennis pro. A director of tennis is responsible for making sure all operational issues are dealt with. People are on time. People are, the courts are clean. The lights are turned on. The trash cans are empty. The courts are cleaned. Lessons are given. Clinics are on time. You're making sure that person's dealing with any of the employee issues. People calling sick. People need a day off. These are the issues that this person's dealing with. They act as a higher level of customer service. When a customer is not happy with what the tennis pro is telling them, they're going to go to the director of tennis and complain. And since the majority of people work at country clubs, we all know that saying no to the wrong person often leads to a bad result. So you want this person in there. They're really going to be working on customer support. They may sign reviews or co-sign reviews. They can recommend HR disciplinary actions. And this is going to come into, as you move up, you start to understand that there's many tiers that people have to abide by, and that we have a lot of legal issues that are going to have to be dealt with. So this is the first level of real legal responsibility. Please understand that if an employee sues a company and wins, they can turn around and sue a director of tennis civilly. And if they've already won the lawsuit or the company has paid them off, there's no protection for that director of tennis. They're also responsible for coaching for performance. They're trying to make sure that people are qualified to do what they're doing. And if someone isn't qualified, try to find a place where they are. And if they still aren't performing, that's when reviews come in. And you're going to try to follow the law. I won't say this is true in every state. I'll tell you, I managed clubs and in fact was a part owner in California where employees are treated very well. They have a lot of legal protections. Every state's different, but you need to understand that even in at-will states, 9 times out of 10, when an employee sues a company, they win. It's very important to say that. So I call the director of tennis level, as well as director of pickleball and gym, the rule enforcers. They make sure people are on time. They make sure the job is done. They are taking care of the day-to-day issues of the club. And I hope that makes sense for everybody. I call it the rule enforcer. Comments about lower management. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been in USPTA for almost 30 years. I think they do a great job of training people to be directors of tennis. If you look at the percentage of members who have worked their way into this position or are on their way to this position, USPTA does a really good job of training these people. Some of the programs that are out there are the USPTA Leadership Academy. Jose Pastorello, Faisal Hassan, AJ Pant, and Sarah are all in charge of this. They've done a great job. I've had some input to putting this together. This is to help qualify people to move up and understand what the job is. As well as that, in the last year, the management training through the USPTA Director of Racket Sport Certification through Florida has become available. This is another great resource to help you get trained and move through it, as well as the USPTA director powered by Mark McMahon's tennis. Again, if you're not investing in yourself, why would you expect your employer to invest in you? So these opportunities are there for you if your goal is to become a director of tennis, if you're not already there. And even if you are there, if you're not investing in your continued education, you need to look at yourself carefully, because myself as an owner or a director, why would I invest in you if you're not investing in yourself? You're going to hear that many times. Some people choose to remain at this level and stay hands-on with tennis. And I want to take a second to talk about this. All of us, everyone on this call, thinks of themselves as a tennis pro. I have not been on the court for 20 years full time. But the reality is, when someone asks me what I do, even though I'm not even doing tennis right now, I still tell them I'm a tennis pro. In my head, that's what I still am. Okay? And sometimes that concept of who I am and what I do interferes with your ability to move up through the chain. So it's great to have that concept, but if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Second time I brought up that statement. If you want to continue to move up in management, there are some skills you're going to need. And I'm going to point out that right now in the industry, a lot of us are getting to this age where we're thinking about retiring, or we've tried to retire. I've joked about this, that I failed retirement 3 times now because I've retired and gone back to work because there aren't trained people to take my place. And I heard this earlier in the discussion with Dave and Woody, that they're getting to an age where they're doing this, but there has to be a backfill to get ready to fill these jobs. And there is a huge number of these people right now. And in fact, there's not even a big number of people applying for teaching pros. So understand that these jobs are becoming available. There are going to be a lot more of these jobs becoming available for the next 5 to 10 years, but you need to be prepared if you want these jobs. Middle management is an administrative level job. And I'm going to spend more time talking about this level of jobs because this is where we just don't have trained people. Currently, there are not enough trained people or qualified people to fill these positions. In the last 2 days, I have interviewed 8 people for one position. This job pays the mid 100s. And to be honest, I can't hire any of these people because they don't understand that this is an administrative position, not a rule enforcer. And it's crazy. These people are highly qualified. This job pays a lot of money with great benefits, and yet I can't hire these people. So there's a skills gap that we're all talking about right now. And the skills gap is not necessarily that they can't handle the computer or they don't have the degrees or whatever, but they don't have the skills to deal with the people at this middle management level. Again, some people are hesitant to give up their hands-on responsibility. I have a friend in Southern California. He's 62. He's a great instructor, Dave, but he doesn't want to move off the court. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as he ages, his body's going to continue to break down. And it's not just about preparing for today or tomorrow. It's that what's the quality of your life going to be when you do retire? If your body breaks down and you need 2 new knees and, a new back, it's pretty hard to get those things. The medical technology is great, but it's not that good. You need to have the foresight that your body will break down. Now, I know that because of who's on this call, we have a fair amount of people who teach on clay courts here. And I'll be honest with you, I think it buys you 10 years of longevity to be on the clay court. It's a lot softer on your legs than the cement we grow up on in Southern California. But the reality is everybody's body breaks down at some point. And when you hear someone audibly groan, when you get out of the car and realize it's you, it's time to start being aware that even you have a finite time that you can do this for a living. I'm going to describe some middle management traits that you need to be aware of. And I'm sorry, I'm going to do something real quick here. I got it under control. Development and implement activities. So at this level of middle management, you aren't worried about who's programming the tennis courts or the pickleball courts. You're going to do things for the entire company. It's different. The support of company-wide objectives is what your main task is. And when you're working at this level, if you're trying to do things, it's not independent of the other departments because you have to work together. And if you're not working together with the other departments, you're going to have a different kind of problem. You're going to supervise junior staff and allocate resources. And I'm going to spend some time talking about this. Your junior staff may be your head pro. It may be the director of tennis. It will not be the teaching pro. But understanding what people's individual skills are and how to put teams together to accomplish these tasks and projects become critical. So knowing the right employees for the tasks become very important. And we're going to talk about how that happens. At this level, your job is to motivate employees, not discipline them. So how do you motivate employees and encourage cooperation? I call it the 1-minute manager. I walk by someone who's doing a good job, and I'm going to say, thank you. I really appreciate what you're doing for the company. I appreciate what you're doing. Is there anything I can do to make your life easier? You're the person who knows how to do your job best. Please tell me how we can make your job easier. If politics are in the way, come and tell me. I want to know because it's my job to get the politics out of your way. That motivation, those simple little words of talking to someone and really listening to them are critical skills as you move into this middle management role, because most of the time you're going to be looking at numbers or data or in meetings, and the minutes you get with this level of employee, the lower level management or even lower, become critical to motivating people to work harder. Look, I can't give everybody a raise every time they do a good job, but I can pat people on the back, and often that does a lot more for people than giving them money. Okay? Manage up and out, working as a team with parallel positions within your subject matter. We're going to talk about SMEs here. SMEs are a very unique situation. Give me 1 second here. I need to take care of something. And that solves that problem. Sorry, I needed to disconnect some audio. Understanding what SMEs are. So I'm a subject matter expert in what I do. I would say I'm a subject matter expert in managing projects and IT. That's my subject matter expertise. But I am not a subject matter expert in HR. And I have to understand that when I get in a situation where I am not the subject matter expert, I have to go to that subject matter expert, and I have to do it early, not late. It's not about ego that I don't have the skills and it's wrong to go to someone else. I have to have my ego in control enough to know that this is an issue that has legal ramifications and I need to get other people involved. Or it's an issue that has budgetary implications and I need to go to the person who's in charge. And so I go back and forth with, I'm an expert at what I do. I have to have control over my own ego. So I make sure that I'm not putting the company at risk. And these are things as you move up. I'll say this, as you move up, part of your job becomes to protect the company from lawsuits. And again, part of it is understanding that I have an employee issue, or I have someone who's gotten hurt on the facility, and I need to minimize the risk to the company, and I need to get other people involved as quickly as possible. Understanding that you are a subject matter expert in your own field, but if you are not, it's your job to find those people. I call those people SMEs, it's a common term. The other thing is decisions made are data driven. I'm an IT expert. I generate reports every day that decisions are made from. But if you're going to risk money from the company, you better have data sitting behind you, because if you don't and you make an error, please understand it's your job on the line. I'll give you an easy example here. When I was managing the clubs, I had a director of tennis come to me and say, I'm generating more revenue this year than I did last year. I want a raise. And I looked at his data, and his data showed me that, yes, he was bringing in more revenue, but the number of hours that the facility was being used was actually less. And that was a red flag to me, because then I started to look at, did you raise your prices this year? And the answer was also yes. And so as this person came into my office, he said, I deserve a raise because I'm generating more money. And myself as the owner, and again, I was a part owner, I want to make that clear, was that you're not really generating, yes, you're generating more revenue, but because you raise your prices, the facility is actually being used less. And that facility is what makes me money. So knowing where the money comes from and how to justify is very different. I'll tell you that this director of tennis who came to me didn't last very long after that meeting, because they didn't come in with the data. I gave it to them. And in fact, I think they were shocked that I had the data. Remember, I'm the middle manager, or I'm the owner. I'm not seeing what you're doing every day, but I'm looking at the data every day. I see the month-end reports. I know what's going on because of that data, and I'm going to make decisions based on it. But if you come to me and say, I need 6 more courts because my facilities are in use, and I say, you know something, you're telling me the truth, because the courts are jammed from the time we open till 10 o'clock in the morning, and again from 3 until 10, that's a good justification for me to build more courts. But if you come to me and say, I need more courts, but half the courts are unused all day, I'm not going to go the same way. You need to know that you need to come with data, and that data is available to everybody at every level. Most companies have an IT department or some form of it. If not, most of the court reservation systems now will produce reports for you so you can get this data. But if you come to me and want to risk my money with speculation or gambling, you're probably not going to be employed by me for very long. Okay. Sorry. I'm going to head down. Sorry. Little computer problem here. So the director of leisure activity is an administrative role. Their performance management, they're looking to make sure that departments are running smoothly, that everybody under them is chugging along. If they need anything, they're there to do it. They're the first layer of what I call problem solving. I have a problem, I need to solve that. And remember, if you're in a country club environment, I said this earlier, if you say no to the wrong person, it can often lead to a lot of problems. So problem solving is knowing how to say no. It's not the word no, it's that I understand what you're saying. Let's see if we can find an alternative that works for you. I had signs up all over my office for my staff that said, it's your job to find a way to say yes. And if you can't find a way to say yes, move it up a level. And so that moved up to the next level. If my middle managers couldn't say yes, then it went up to the GM or the owner. If someone had to say no, let it be the owner or the GM. Try not to say no to the wrong person. It leads to problems. Okay. Long-term planning and implementation. This is the first level where you're not looking at today or a week from today or a month from now. You're looking at a year from now. You're trying to project out what our needs are going to be next year. At this time of the year, I'm doing budget for next year. My budget is July 1 through June 30th, but I'm doing budget right now, and I'll be doing budget in probably until May, when it's due to my board of directors, and my board of directors needs to approve it before July 1 so that I have money to operate July 1. So long-term planning is done very differently. It's not unique. Even if you're new to the job, someone's done this before. The data exists. You just need to look for it and continue to make it happen. Must be able to implement senior management decisions regardless of personal position. If you look at the bottom, I have something called Heartless. In the last 20 years, I have gone through people who have had to been laid off. This is a very unpleasant thing, folks. They're doing their job, and I have to lay them off because of financial issues or because the job doesn't exist. These are very difficult things to do, and there are times it's your job. And I'll tell you, the first time I had to fire someone, I actually went to my boss and said, I can't do this. I resign. And they said, the biggest favor I'm ever going to do for you is to make you do this. And they made me do it. And I had a lot of issues with it. The reality is I ended up doing it. And I don't like doing it, but I can do it. And it's part of the middle management job. If you as a director of tennis are being told to fire someone and HR is not in the room, you better find a way to protect yourself and keep witnesses in the room. Generally, firing now is done by the HR, but the middle manager is in the room. There are times this job is heartless. There are times this job is great. Understand what the job is. If your manager tells you that you need to cut $100,000 out of your budget, and there are only so many places to cut that much money, sometimes a warm body is the person you're going to cut, and it's difficult. Don't undersell that. We're going to talk about this a little bit. It's hard to supervise friends at any level, and here are some suggestions. Notice everyone, manage by walking around. And I told you I do this. I get up about once an hour and I try to walk around. Sometimes I'm headed to the bathroom. Sometimes I run into people in the bathroom, but I try to notice everybody and say hello and talk to everybody. Make sure that I'm visible. I used to work out in the club's gym every day, and the members knew I was in there from 5 in the morning till 6:30 in the morning, and they would come up and talk to me. They knew they could get to me, and I made it a point to talk to people. Be friendly to everybody, but remember, there's a difference between being friendly and being a friend. And you need to understand this, because the first time you have to terminate a friend or discipline a friend or lay off a friend, you will find that way less pleasant, okay? Sometimes I don't go to lunch with the staff, and sometimes I avoid getting into personal relationships with people, because at this level, I'm paid to make decisions and paid to implement things that are often hard to do it. Make room for everybody. Don't exclude anybody. Everybody's in the room for a reason. I'm going to give Chuck Gill a little bit of our prop here. I worked with Chuck Gill as a board of director for the USPTA for about 4 years. Chuck created an environment in the board of directors where he encouraged diverse ideas, even if it was disagreements, as long as it was done respectfully. But when a decision was made at that level in a private room, then everybody supported that decision. But it was a safe environment for everybody to bring in opinions. you don't want everybody to agree with you. And there are ways to say you don't agree with people. You don't have to say it that way. You can say, hey, that's a great idea, but did we look at these other things just to make sure we're covering all the ground? It's done respectfully. You don't have to argue with people. You don't have to take it personally. No one means those things personally, and I guess some people do. But at the end of the day, you're in the room because you're a SME. And your opinions matter, and it's important that you bring them forward. And it's okay to be the one discerning voice. It's important to be the one discerning voice. Understand that you're in the room for a reason. You weren't hired to be quiet. You were hired to be an analyst and bring opinions and protect the company. And again, make room for everybody. No one gets excluded. Root for everybody. You want everybody to succeed. Everybody's success is your success. Even though these people are maybe several layers below you, their success is your success. They run a great program. That's great, but that's great for the company too. And it's important to recognize those people and root for them. Again, it's the 1 minute manager. If you get nothing out of this lecture or this webinar, there's a book out there called The 1 Minute Manager. Do yourself a favor. It's in paperback form. It's under $10. Get it, because you're going to get 1 minute with the average person to say thank you. Okay? Empathize with everybody. Listen, really listen. I've gotten this from 10 people. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. It's really important to listen. Really listen. Listen to what people say. You can get a lot of information from people just by listening and watching their body language. Okay. Real life example here. If you have an underperforming employee that your lower management has made you aware of. Let me see if I can move my stuff, get it out of the way here. How are you going to handle this? Well, I mean, remember, your job is to protect the company. And you have to understand there are so many legalities with employee issues right now that the first thing you need to understand is your SME is in HR. And you're going to need to call your HR manager, director, whoever it is, and schedule a meeting with the concerned parties. If you meet with an employee privately, there's no record. That person can claim anything they want, and you can end up in a lot of trouble here. Do yourself a favor. Call HR, schedule a meeting with the concerned party, and remember, part of your job is to protect the company from lawsuits. The higher you go, the more that's part of it. The other thing is produce a plan, counsel, train, formal reviews over time. If you have to, disciplinary actions or terminations, but this plan is going to be affected by federal and state laws. Everybody, even if you're in an at-will state, is bound by the Employment and Development Code, which is a federal law. It doesn't matter what your state says. There are laws to protect the employees here, which HR will follow with the support of the immediate employee. Are you prepared to terminate an employee? Please, folks, if you've never done this, it's not fun. It's not pleasant. It's never going to be fun. It's not what it is. I heard this the other day, and I really think about this. Hire slow, fire fast. And by that, I mean, if you're hiring someone, check their references. And we're all guilty of this. I get a phone call. I want an employee out because they're an underperformer. I'm going to tell you, hey, this person's really good, man. They work good. They really take good feedback. They're doing their job. I'm trying to get them out of there. You know, let's say I'm a little selfish about it, but I know other people who do this too. I'm trying to find a way to help employees succeed. If an employee has ended up in a review process, and this is California law, so I'm going to give you the worst example, not the best. You review them 90 days later. If they're still not performing up to snuff, then you review them again. And you might be to suspend them for a day without pay or a couple days. But if they perform up to the minimum standards, you start from ground zero. It's very hard to terminate someone in California legally. Okay, but I'm not after that. I'm trying to counsel employees. And if it's a problem because this employee is not trained, that's my fault because I haven't provided them the training that is necessary. And sometimes it means moving them from where I hired to a different spot if they have other skills that I haven't taken advantage of. That has to do with listening to the employee. But again, remember, you're there to protect the company, and HR understands the law. And before this gets very far, there's going to be a lawyer involved to protect the company. So HR is the one who's going to call the lawyer to protect the company. There's lots of documentation. After you meet with an employee, both HR and the middle manager should sit down and write something that says, I met with this person on this day at this time for this long, and this was what was discussed. Because that's documentation that if you get called into court, helps protect the company. Okay? Senior management, and again, this is a pinnacle. I'm not going to hit too much on this almost through my time, but you need qualities to be the senior management. And I moved up through the chain. I will be honest with you, I've done every job in the tennis industry, from being the teaching pro to being a head pro to a director to being the middle manager to moving up. By the way, I didn't get a choice about when I moved up. My boss quit, who was the facilities director. I tried to figure out how to get my people paid. I got my people paid and was able to help get the aquatics and the gym and the equestrian people paid. And all of a sudden, the following Monday, I was the GM or the director of the facility. I didn't have a choice about moving up. My choice was, do you want this job or you're fired? So anyway, what I learned along the way and what I had to learn as I moved up is I was there for leadership. That was my job now. And that I was there to be the motivator. I wasn't there to micromanage. I wasn't there to tell people what to do. I was there to discuss the company's goals and move forward. I needed to be a better listener. This is something I have to work on all the time, is to listen to people. Don't finish sentences for people. Listen. Take the time. Look at problems as an opportunity. This might be another important thing you get from me. Problems are not problems. They are opportunities to move forward. And I can't emphasize that enough. At this level, everything is data-driven. I don't see the average person. I'm looking at the data. I am the face of the company. And by the face of the company, I'm the one representing them. I dress appropriately. I try to be professional at all times. And I need to be flexible. Even if that rubs me the wrong way, I need to be flexible to make sure that the company is in a position to do what they need. Samples of responsibilities, overall profit and cost. I'm to protect the company from liabilities. We've talked about this. It's my job to protect the company from being sued. Motivate employees at all levels. Promote the company's mission statement. May have the ability to throw money at problems. And by this, I mean that when problems become bad, I might have it in my budget to throw money at it where the other people don't. And that's a unique situation. But at the end of the day, everybody has a boss. And even though I was a part owner, I had bosses. They were called board of directors, and they were my boss. Okay. What makes a great leader? And I'm just going to touch on this. Great leaders may not be the CEO, but someone else in the company. I'm going to say that I had the opportunity to work with a great leader who is not the senior boss, Jose. He's not even a senior manager. He's a middle manager, but he's a great leader. You don't have to be the CEO to be a great leader. You can be anywhere. Great leaders have something in common. They never stop learning. They're the best motivators. They learn to listen, something I need to work on. They understand that hard decisions will have to be made. Great leaders hope to bring different people and different ideas to discussions. And great leaders build environments of safety to have diverse ideas. And you heard me say that Chuck Gill is one of these people who I had the opportunity to work with that did this. Thank you very much. I'm a few minutes under. Again, my name's Alan. I actually have a BS and MS in computer science and an MBA in telecommunication. And if you want to get a hold of me, here's my email. I'm of the email generation, but I'm going to point something out while I'm finishing this up. I'm 62. The guys who did the GM discussion are young, but we're all getting to the age where our jobs are going to open up because we want to retire. And if there isn't another group ready to step up and understand what these roles and jobs entail, we're in deep trouble because we can't retire. And that, in fact, is why I sold my business rather than promoting someone, because they weren't ready. And again, if you're not ready to invest in yourself, don't expect your companies to invest in you. If you're not spending time educating yourself, don't expect your employer to do it either. I'm here for questions if you have any. I'll try to look at the chat box while I'm talking to you. I got a 5-minute warning. So any questions for me?
I think that just about covers it, Alan, but we just want to say thank you for your time today. That was a great presentation. And, we really appreciate everything you do and speaking today. So thanks once again.
Thank you for the opportunity. I also should say thank you to Wilson Racket Sports for their continued support of my goals and objectives. So thank you guys very much. Again, doing a great job.
All right. Thanks, Alan.